Louis, thank you so much for meeting with us today. Could we talk a little bit about the conference and what a business person in Atlanta will be able to get out of this conference?
First, let me say thank you for allowing me to expand upon the conference that we're scheduled to have April 28th through the 30th here in Atlanta. And we're going to break the conferences into three parts. On the 28th, we're going to have a reception for the delegation of 25 government and business leaders who will arrive at the airport, and we're going to have a brief overview of Atlanta and some of the business opportunities in Atlanta. But the main focus of the conference will take place on Thursday, the 29th. We start with a breakfast at 7:30, and we're hoping to have the governor and the mayor do opening remarks. And we'll have a series of panel discussions combined with some of the Panamanian delegation and Americans who are, one, actively doing business in Panama or interested in doing business in Panama. And that's a full day of workshops and seminars. And then we're going to have a dinner and a reception that evening at the Georgia Tech Conference Center. And Friday morning, for those corporate sponsors, we are going to have an opportunity for the representative from that corporation to have a one-on-one business meeting with the Minister and Vice Minister of Commerce and Industry from the country of Panama. So this is an opportunity for the business leaders to really sit down with the government official to talk about their particular projects and how they can play a role in terms of business opportunities between the two countries.
And you were saying earlier the advantage of this conference is you're actually bringing Panama to Atlanta.
Right. One of the things I've always informed people is that when you talk about international opportunities, that you have to visit the country. And I still encourage individuals to visit the country. But what we decided to do with the input from our sister or brother chapter in Panama, which is the United States-Panama Business Council, the Panama chapter, is to have a delegation come to the United States to talk about the advantages and the business opportunities in trade, commerce, and investment. So it's bringing the country to Atlanta, Georgia.
Could you talk about who will be here from Panama? I know it may be tentative, but I know you're trying for a fairly influential delegation.
Right. Heading up the delegation will be the Minister of Commerce and Industry, Honorable Enriquez, is Vice Minister, the Ambassador from Panama to the United States, Ambassador Alaman, and a number of senior and presidents of major organizations or companies. For example, we will have representatives from Dell Computer, Procter & Gamble, the Marriott Hotels, and they all have a presence in Panama right now. So they're going to speak about the advantages of establishing a multinational hub in Panama City for distribution throughout Central and South America. So we want to be able to talk about not only projects in Panama, but also the advantages of American companies establishing a base in Panama City as a Latin American hub.
And you were saying the government of Panama is encouraging companies to locate there with tax incentives and other things?
Well, there are a number of tax incentives. Just like in a city that's thinking about relocating into a particular city, there are some advantages looking at Atlanta or Georgia instead of another city or state in the United States. So there are some tax advantages in terms of doing business and establishing an international presence or a multi-company in Panama City. The idea here is that it's a win-win situation for the organization and for the country of Panama. It also creates jobs because you have a knowledge transfer process that will take place with the American companies having a presence in Panama.
What are some of the advantages of doing business in Panama for a company that was looking at different locations? I know obviously the canal is one thing.
Well, the canal is one thing, but you also have to look in terms of the labor pool Panama has a labor pool made up of individuals that are young, aggressive, willing to learn, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, it's geographically. From Atlanta, Georgia, it's within 4 hours you're there, versus looking at another country that might take 12, 14 hours to get to. So there's a geographic location. Then you have the dollarized system, because the same currency here in the United States that we use in Panama. So
Which reduces your risk, I guess.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the GDP of Panama has been positive. So you have a lot of positive incentives to beautiful climate. We went through some tough times here in Atlanta, Georgia, versus the type of climate conditions in Panama. There are basically two seasons, a dry season and the wet season, but nevertheless, it's very inducive for a company to look at Panama City as a place to do business.
Are there any particular industries or fields that there is more demand in Panama than others? In other words, are there particular fields where they need more help?
Well, the government has created some major infrastructure projects. For example, they're going to start the process of building a rail system and a metro bus system in Panama City. A rail system is going to generate tremendous opportunities in Panama City.
Is that an underground or above ground?
It's going to be a combination.
Okay.
To my knowledge, it's going to be a combination of above and below ground. And a representative from the rail system will be here to talk in more detail about exactly what the plans are and the completion of that particular project.
So it might be engineering contracts, it could be...
Absolutely. As you look at the expansion of the Panama Canal, that's a $5.2 billion initiative, which obviously they've started with the breaking of ground and the excavation of the land to build 2 new locks. The existing locks will stay intact, but these are new locks that will take place. And that project is scheduled for completion in 2014. Again, there are different subsets of opportunities based on the overall infrastructure project. And then you have what I refer to as the Howard Panama Pacifico project. And that's a project that's going to, that land is located, that was a former Air Force base. And that land now will be used for cargo, industrial, commercial, and residential use. And that is almost like a city within the city, where we can have transit back and forth between the canal, the Pacific side of the canal, and the Caribbean side of the canal.